Hi, this is Mr. Cruz. This video is going to be on Reconstruction, 1865 to 1877. We may be doing this in the flip classroom where you're watching this at home. It might be the in-class flip, or we're doing this in class, or you're at a station because you didn't do your homework. Either way, you're responsible for all the assignments in this video. Your assessment on Reconstruction come from the Reconstruction packet, which is on Edmodo. This video is the main part of that packet. And again, the nice thing about the flip classroom, you can pause and rewind anything you're stuck on or you don't understand. So since it's on video, I'm probably going to go a little quick because you can always pause it. Okay, what the heck is going on here? What's Reconstruction? Well, we're talking about right after the Civil War. Program implemented by the federal government between 1865 and 1877 to repair the damage to the South caused by the Civil War and restore the southern states to the Union. Now, Reconstruction, like a lot of things with history, they say the victors write the history, and there's always perspective. Again, my name is Mr. Cruz. I'm a teacher in Detroit. So the book used here, and of course probably my bias, whether intentional or not, you're probably going to get a northern advantage on some of these things. I would be very interested to hear the explanation and perspective from the South. I wonder if the Southern textbooks are a little different. I know I go down to Texas every summer, and I definitely hear a different side of the Civil War I find very intriguing. But that being said, please forgive any bias. As they say, there's bias in all history. But we'll try our best to do an accurate job here. So the war's aftermath, Reconstruction begins. The word itself, reconstruction, to reconstruct something, put it back together. There was a physical toll. The war destroyed 2/3 of the South shipping industry and about 9,000 miles of railroads. The South lost 2/3 of all livestock, roads were destroyed, factories and other buildings were leveled. The value of Southern farm property had plunged by about 70%. Try to wrap your mind around all that. That is a total economic collapse. And try to imagine the life of a Southerner. You're already bitter and upset that you lost the war. And to have this physical toll in your state and what you considered part of your country, the Confederate States of America. Then there's the human toll. Okay, the Civil War, this is powerful. It destroyed a generation of young, healthy men. These were fathers, brothers, husbands. The North lost approximately, of course, all these numbers are approximate, depending on your source. The North lost 364,000 soldiers. About 38,000 of those were African Americans. The South lost 260,000 soldiers. And keep in mind, that's actually a bigger loss for the South in a lot of ways because they have a smaller population. It lost 1/5 of its adult white men, a fifth. 1 in 3 Southern men were killed or wounded. That's incredible because not only, obviously, them being killed is an obvious loss, but ones that were wounded, and one that I don't think gets into that equation is, the physically wounded. You had a lot of amputees on both sides, but, they didn't have post-traumatic stress disorder back then. They may have used the term shell shock. I don't know if that was around during the Civil War, actually. I'd have to check on that one. But, there's a big psychological toll from battle in any war. So that 1 in 3 is amazing enough. Then you consider the ones that did come back. Just the psychological damage along with the obvious physical damage. Here's some questions of Reconstruction. What do we do now? The Civil War is over. And keep in mind, the South lost the war and slavery was ended. By no means. Don't think they were like, okay, blacks are equal now. We lost. We'll treat them right. No, they're upset. They're incredibly angry about this whole thing. It's no coincidence the KKK forms right after the Civil War. A lot of it's out of the bitterness and anger of losing the Civil War. And according to some sources, it's debated, Nathan Bedford Forrest, probably the greatest cavalryman of the Civil War on either side, joins the Klan, and according to some sources, is the first Grand Wizard of the KKK. That is still argued and debated today, though. The fall of the Confederacy and the end of slavery, this raises very difficult questions. How and when should Southern states be allowed to resume their role in the Union? What do we do? Do we have the mom and dad, the parental attitude, like, hey, you were bad, you ran away, and now you need to be punished? Or is that going to defeat the purpose of reuniting as one country? Should the South be punished for its actions or be forgiven and allowed to recover quickly? Or is there a medium here? Now that black Southerners are free, would the races have equal rights? And keep in mind, just because something's on paper doesn't mean it's happening in reality. Look at today. There's still racism today. If so, how might those rights be protected? This is going to be a big problem for Reconstruction. Did the Civil War itself point out a need for a stronger federal government? I want you to answer the questions on this slide based on your opinion. Even though we're just starting Reconstruction, you're kind of predicting here. Some critical thinking involved. Don't be afraid to be wrong or incorrect. And you're not really going to be wrong because it's your opinion. Before we learn about President Lincoln's plan and President Johnson's plan for Reconstruction, you predict their plans by creating your own Reconstruction plan. I want you to create it just based on what we've learned so far. I know it's not a lot, but let's get your brain working a little bit. Let's do a little critical thinking. Let's predict a few things. Let's create a plan. Do the best you can, and don't be afraid to be quote unquote wrong. We just started, but do the best you can. Come up with your own plan. How would you, if you were the President of the United States at this time, how would you create a plan to reconstruct the South and bring this Union back together? Hit pause and go ahead and make your plan. And you're gonna compare and contrast your plan with the 16th to 17th president's plan. And yes, I did forget that was there. It kind of surprised me. Okay, go ahead and pause and create your plan. Okay, now that you have unpaused it, you should have your own Reconstruction plan handy. And of course, this goes in your notebook and will be graded along with every assignment in this video. And you'll use it on your open note exit tickets. You can use your notes. On the exam, it'll be the same information, but of course, no notes on an exam. So, let's look at Lincoln's plan. And again, President Lincoln's plan, President Johnson's plan, there was a lot more to it than this. This is a basic video on Reconstruction. We're just covering the main ideas and concepts here. You could spend a semester on this. You could spend an undergraduate semester just on Lincoln and Johnson's Reconstruction. But we're just going over the basics here. Lincoln proposed a 10% plan for Reconstruction. The plan was forgiving to the South. That's an overall theme. If one word you're going to describe Lincoln's Reconstruction, he's really forgiving of the South. Because again, like in the beginning of the war, as he said, his main goal is preservation of the Union. It offered a pardon and official forgiveness of a crime to any Confederate who would take an oath of allegiance to the Union and accept federal policy on slavery, which meant there is no more slavery. It denied pardons to all Confederate military and government officials and to Southerners who had killed African-American war prisoners. Nathan Bedford Forrest may be an example for that. It permitted each state to hold a convention to create a new state constitution only after 10% of voters in the state had sworn allegiance to the Union. 10%, it's something that may have been symbolic, if anything. And 4, states could then hold elections and resume full participation in the Union. So that's Lincoln's plan. So real quick, just pause. Let's make a Venn diagram, or if you like the double bubble map from our thinking maps in front of the room, use a double bubble map, you decide. But you're going to compare and contrast with a graphic organizer the plan you came up with at the beginning and President Lincoln's plan. these are some points to ponder before you make your Venn diagram. Lincoln's plan did not require the new constitutions to give voting rights to black Americans. Congress saw Lincoln's plan as a threat to congressional authority. Lincoln had opposition from his own party. They were known as radical Republicans. And there is your definition of radical Republicans. And this is a side note, a lot of people get confused with this. Whether it's right or wrong, I'm not trying to sway your political beliefs or future political beliefs. But a lot of people feel today, and by today, and we're in it's 2014 as I make this video, the Democratic Party is the party for minorities in this country and have their interest in mind, and that the Republicans really don't. So a lot of students get confused here, but there is a shift with the Republican Party and Democratic Party that'll come around the Kennedy administration and LBJ's Great Society. But you had your Dixiecrats, you had the Southern Democrats that were very, pro-slavery. So that being said, keep in mind, Lincoln is the first Republican president to become president of the United States. And try to avoid the confusion there, whether it's right or wrong. But there's your radical Republicans. So go ahead and hit pause, make that Venn diagram, comparing your plan to President Lincoln's. Okay, now you made your Venn diagram. Let's see Lincoln versus radical Republicans. What side do you agree with? The radical Republicans viewed Lincoln's plans too lenient. Congress passed its own stricter Reconstruction plan. It required ex-Confederate men to take an oath of past and future loyalty and to swear that they had never willingly borne arms against the U.S. Again, I'm not sure how practical some of these things are. Lincoln let the bill die in a pocket veto. Lincoln's hopes came to a violent end just weeks after his second inauguration. We talked about this when we started the Civil War, Lincoln's assassination by John Wilkes Booth. And again, from Assassination Vacation, a book by Sarah Vowell, Lincoln dies laughing, right? Wilkes Booth waits to the biggest laugh of the night because he was an actor and he had acted in that play, or I think it was called Our American Cousin, I believe. And the biggest laugh of the night is when Booth pulls the trigger, hoping the laughter of the crowd would muffle the sound of the gunshot, which it did not. And things did not work out for Mr. Booth either. But we did cover that. I don't want to rehash that. We covered that in our Civil War lesson. But you do need to know for this lesson, what is a pocket veto? There is your definition. I won't read it. Okay, now let's look at President Andrew Johnson's Reconstruction plan. And I want you to compare and contrast this to your plan as well. It pardoned Southerners who swore allegiance to the Union. And yes, Andrew Johnson was Abe Lincoln's vice president, so upon the assassination, he ascends to the presidency, regardless of his sobriety at the time. Number two, it permitted each state to hold a constitutional convention. Didn't need Lincoln's 10% allegiance requirement. States were required to avoid secession, abolish slavery, and repudiate the Confederate debt. States could then hold elections and rejoin the Union. Okay, a term that's really popular at this time, something you really need to know when we talk about Reconstruction. It comes up a lot. Make sure you know about the Freedmen's Bureau. Probably won't hurt you to do a little independent research on this. I'm going to include a brief little video on this on our Edmodo site. It'll be under the link for this video. The Freedmen's Bureau, created by Congress in 1865, the first major federal relief agency in the United States. It's created to help black Southerners adjust to freedom. And think about that for a second, because there really is a huge adjustment. Okay, this is going to be the end of this video. We'll continue on video number 2.